Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar where we're looking to discuss some practical ways to protect your home network. This webcast arose out of the need to sort of give our friends, our family, our customers practical ways to protect your home network, and we hope it's of use. So a quick introduction about myself. My name is Mika Devonshire. I have spent about 8 years in the information security field between blue team and red team roles. I formerly served in national security, and after pursuing my master's in digital forensics and, racking up some qualifications, I decided to work full-time in incident response and investigations. So I came from Washington, D.C., but since being in Hong Kong, I've been working for Blackpanda as an incident response specialist. And now to my colleague, Mark.
Mika, it is a pleasure to be with you all today and to share some of our experience to help you secure your work from home workplace. My name is Mark Whitley, and I have over 30-year background in IT and IT-related investigation work. I've worked with organisations ranging from SMEs to multinational corporations, federal and state law enforcement agencies and NGOs. I've been based at various times in Europe, Asia and Australia, and have been deployed to every continent on Earth that doesn't have a pole sticking out of the middle of it. I have extensive digital forensic and cyber incident response experience, from which I'm hoping to impart some level of knowledge sharing with you to help you secure your home workplace. So as we are all well aware, the recent COVID-19 pandemic has forced our governments, businesses, economies and communities to go well outside of their regular comfort zone in order to maintain some level of regular function. And although far be it from what we may regard as normality, the way we're adapting to work from home is changing the world order on how we function. What we are learning now will become part of the new norm. We must advance carefully, efficiently, deliberately to ensure that we overcome our obstacles and all achieve our business goals.
Well said, Mark. And it really has changed the definition of business as we know it. So this quote from Larry Dignan, who is a ZDNet chief editor, this is an online publication for IT professionals, IT security, really harps on this point. And it's important that while we know work will change, and our hearts go out to all those in the medical field and in professions that are currently under, immense stress, we did want to sort of present our side of the story and try to give you all practical advice and guidance that you can use during the COVID crisis.
So clearly the work from home model is growing incredibly fast, with pretty much everyone who can work from home already working from home. There is growing pressure on our existing infrastructure, such as ISPs or cloud services, our network infrastructure like VPNs. They're all showing signs of strain under the new arrangements. Individuals that work from home are finding that they have to troubleshoot their own IT problems, and they deal with distractions and performance issues, which can create stresses and gaps not normally seen in the workplace. And you don't really have to go far to discover that on a daily basis, how cyber criminals are taking advantage of these potential vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. And, the news headlines we're seeing are so unfortunate that many people are experiencing an increase in cyber attacks during these times. So rather than try to give you a blanket guidance on all the wonderful things you can do, we've actually provided several links in the chat feature. These have a lot of relevance, and some of the great thought leadership institutions like SANS or your local state and national governments have provided guidance that we highly encourage everyone to review and consume, as these can all be wonderful resources for you to use. Learn from the best, but also stay informed, keep your workforces informed, and continue to remain vigilant and follow all the guidance you can to try to keep your network safe during these times.
Yeah, that's right.
So our agenda for today, will be just sort of some of the best tips and tricks that haven't already been repeated in a lot of the issued guidance from other organizations. There is a Q&A feature in Zoom, so we will reserve time at the end of today's webinar to go through some of those questions and hopefully answer them for you. The topics we'll discuss today include securing your network, my number one tip, which is upgrading your router firmware and changing those admin credentials, separating browsers for work and personal use, and also some anti-phishing awareness tips and campaigns we've seen. Finally, we'll close with our strong suit, which is incident response, procedures, and planning.
Thank you, Mika. When you walk in and log into your regular workplace system, there are many layers of policies and procedures and appliances in play in your office environment. And we can see some of those here on this slide. They're all designed to increase the security and protection of your business. It's easy to do, but we should not forget that there is significant investment and energy into developing and maintaining this level of assuredness. You may recognize some or all of these elements shown here.
Wow, it's a great point that there really is a high level of investment and diligence put into securing our corporate networks. What about home?
Well, exactly. I mean, if you compare what you just saw to your average home, we soon realize that there is a dramatic difference in the infrastructure, support and security. This is a real and increasingly obvious problem, as evidenced by the impressive attendance level of this webinar, for example. Securing your work from home environment is being taken very seriously, and it rightfully should.
Absolutely. So just in reviewing this slide, what are the many ways that your home network is not your corporate network? We're going to put a poll to the audience right now. So, hopefully Zoom will cooperate. But essentially, I challenge you all to figure out how many connected devices are on your home network right now. Do you estimate there's 1 to 3, maybe 4 to 10? Or are there actually over 10 appliances on your home network? So take a minute, fill out the poll if you can. And later on, here's a sneak peek, I will actually tell you, you can find out exactly how many devices are on your home network. Some of the things in this slide may come as, obvious gaps and weaknesses in your home network, but we today are going to help you figure out how to make up for some of these and how to actually become a better IT manager. So while you might not have a network policy, your backups might be a power generator and whatever cloud storage you can find. You can actually implement more visitor access control by looking at the devices on your network. You can enable your endpoint firewall, and you can start patching all of your home devices. And with the poll question, think of how many friends, family members, guests you've actually given your Wi-Fi password to. So some of the ways that we're hoping to fill those gaps from the previous slide are to encourage you to remain very vigilant when you're using your home devices. It's now more important than ever to really check the security of every website you see. Don't trust untrusted certificates, and enable your endpoint firewall. So on Windows, this might look like Defender. On Mac, there's a built-in firewall. Really take advantage of all of the precautions that you can and enable all of those security features. We also recommend using a VPN when connecting to public Wi-Fi, or if you're at home and you know that you're not on a segmented network, consider using a VPN from home as well. Another very important point is to close and terminate RDP sessions. That serves as kind of a persistent backdoor if you don't actually close and terminate those RDP sessions when you're done. That's remote desktop protocol. Also, to increase patching and security, you should update your antivirus and all software everywhere, like now. Because sometimes an attacker might enter your network through one weak point, and then they can pivot laterally and move across the network to other devices that might otherwise have been secured. So remember, it doesn't matter if it's your PlayStation, your home IP camera, your second laptop, or your children's devices, it's very important to patch and maintain the highest level of software security on all of your devices.
Yeah, that's right, Mika. Thank you. Another area that we can focus on our security efforts is the home Wi-Fi. We all use wireless connections at home, and so it's clearly one of the key points of concern regarding our security. I can relate to you an example of why this is critical to focus on. It's some years ago, I was involved in an investigation where there were some activities by an individual that were criminal in nature over the internet. And we attended the premises with a search warrant in order to search for evidence and arrest the individual. And upon performing our function, we did not see any evidence of the criminal activities at all, which was really bizarre because we knew that they were coming from that address. What we later worked out was that the individual's Wi-Fi router had been compromised by his neighbour, someone that was in range of the Wi-Fi. That neighbour was hijacking our person of interest's internet connection and conducting all the criminal activity from there. So it's a good example about how something seemingly mundane can actually cause you a big problem if you don't have control of it.
Absolutely. I mean, so if you want to protect yourselves from such an incident happening and from Mark knocking on your door, with a search warrant, we highly recommend that just for your own security and for your network security, update your router firmware and change the admin password to your router. So what are the steps and why is this important? Well, you've probably never updated your router firmware if you're shaking your head saying, well, I thought that was automatic. Oftentimes it's not. So updating your firmware prevents things like the Mirai botnet, denial of service, or somebody actually war driving and taking advantage of your unpatched router. This step takes minimum effort and you can do it today. So first, you'll have to figure out how to log into your router. Now you'll want to look up the model number and the manufacturer so that you get step-by-step instructions from them. But it typically looks something like logging into myrouter.netgear/login or an IP address such as 192.168.1.1. You'll want to start by changing the default password, which is typically admin and password. And once you're logged in, you can see all the devices that are connected to your network. You can also increase the security by turning off peer-to-peer file sharing and other vulnerable services that attackers might misuse. Once you've seen all those assets on the network, you could even start your own asset inventory on your home network. Updating your router firmware can be a little bit more challenging, so you will again want to look up your router model and log in. Oftentimes you can enable auto updates on the router, which is a great step moving forward. But if not, you can typically download a file package from the manufacturer and then install that and apply it to your router. So in just 30 easy seconds, you have already taken steps to control and secure your home network.
Good tips, Mika. In an ideal world, anyone working from home would have clear separation of just about every facet of work and personal activities. For example, a secure work from home office that was off limits to family and friends, for example. That office had a dedicated computer for work only, possibly even its own internet connection. And however, this is not always the case, as we know. And we are seeing that as budgets are tightening, many people are being asked to bring their own device more often. Naturally, this means that people will be more likely to use a single device for both work and personal activities. So for those who are in this category, there are a couple of tips to greatly reduce the exposure to cyber threats. One of these is to silo your web browsing activities. One browser for work and one browser for personal. There are some cyber attacks that take advantage of the way that web browsers store user information, field values, even passwords. So if Chrome is your work browser and Mozilla Firefox is your personal activity browser, then it is very difficult for an attacker to leap across from one to another to gather this kind of data.
Excellent points, Mark. So we highly encourage all those who are working from home to identify and select two different browsers. We've gotten questions about, well, is it sufficient to pull up two windows or use incognito mode? But unfortunately, the way browsers work is they use the same storage areas and access the same configurations, whether you're using it in either of those modes. So another point to bring up while we're talking about siloing browsers is pay attention to which browser is your default. Because by default, if you were to accidentally click on a phishing link and your default browser is the one you use for work, you might be pulling up that phishing link and allowing whatever that malicious process is to scrape all of the cookies and private information that pertains to your work browser. There are other steps you can take to harden your work browser, such as disabling JavaScript, turning on ad blockers, and going through all of the configurations to check that you've enhanced the privacy measures of that browser. You would want to deny all suspicious downloads and also clear all cookies and cached content at the end of your browsing session. While this might take more time to log back in at the end, at least you're not leaving any persistent work-related information on that browser. And again, to reiterate, please disable and log off of RDP and TeamViewer sessions when you're done. It's not sufficient to just close the window. You actually need to log out of the session.
Yeah, that's right, Mika. That takes us into another area that's very important for securing your work from home. It's around phishing and particularly anti-phishing awareness. We do know that there's a huge spike in the number of phishing attempts by attackers to gain access to data or systems in the new work from home environment. Often they're trying to capitalize on the confusion or physical gaps between employees, and we expect that the attackers will be very successful in their new phishing campaigns, but there are some things that you can do to better spot when you are being phished.
Exactly. And this even brings up a story that happened just the other day. So as we all know, a lot of public events have been canceled due to the coronavirus. So I was planning on attending a dance show and my tickets were canceled, and I received a phone call from the ticketing company about those tickets. They asked me, have I confirmed my bank account details and could I provide my bank account number so that they could process the refund? Well, it sounded believable enough because I did purchase tickets to this, but one thing you don't realize is there's a wealth of information about you, whether it's your likes and check-ins on social media or just the fact that you purchased tickets to an upcoming event. The thing I encourage everyone to do when you receive a suspicious phone call is turn it back on the person calling. You owe them nothing. So whether they're asking for your bank account information or calling to confirm an order or something that might have been scraped through open source information, you can respond to the caller and say, who are you calling from? What is your name? How can I verify your identity? And why do I need to provide you this information? Remember, you are the one in control of your own identity. So ways that you can pick up on whether something is phishing or real: you should not rely on your spam filters, but remain very vigilant. So check for unusual characteristics. Do you know the sender? Examine the domain address closely. Analyze the language in detail. And is there a reason you need to take action on this item? I know that I've been receiving a lot of memes from friends and family over the last few weeks, but just make sure you know what you're clicking on before you click. It could be the funniest meme in the world, but it could also be a phishing attempt. And also, when you do receive a piece of spam, try not to just flag it or forward it to an individual without giving them fair warning, as forwarding these links may actually result in the individual clicking on it themselves. Try taking a screenshot and then follow up with your IT security provider or person for more information. This is also a great time to bring up password security. So for all of you who are wondering why somebody might be sending you a meme that has malware embedded in it, well, attackers are typically going for your credentials and your personal information. So this is the time, especially during COVID, to review all of your passwords and ensure that you have two-factor authentication enabled across personal and work accounts. So you might want to take this time to set up a password manager or just review all of your logins, but it's really important that you increase your awareness and heighten your security during this time.
Yeah, that's right, Mika. There's lots of examples coming up now about how attackers are using phishing to exactly try and get credentials and user data. I thought it might be important just to list a couple of those examples here so we can see the sorts of things that we're talking about. And it's important to note that not all phishing attempts are email-based. The examples we have here, top left, is a text message that's come through to an individual's phone. It looks at first glance to be from Netflix, offering some free passes. If you follow the link, you'll go to a website that is designed to harvest information about you and, in fact, 10 of your friends. So it's a very clever way of skimming some personal detail. The one on the bottom left is a Facebook post. That also links to a website that does appear to be genuine, but again, it's designed to harvest personal information. And the one on the right is a link that's been sent out via email a lot of the time, but it's also appearing in Google searches that people who are looking for some information on coronavirus can search for and click on. And the nice pretty blue button there will actually install a agent on your computer that turns your computer into just another element of a large botnet called Blacknet.
Oh man.
So, yeah, very, very concerning.
So what are things that your organization can do from an incident response perspective during this coronavirus crisis?
Well, incident response is clearly where everything comes together. It's impossible to say that you won't get compromised. So having a proper plan in place is the best layer of protection just in case that happens. And this is one of the critical elements of securing your work from home workforce and your business. If you don't have an incident response plan, you need to create one. And if you do have one, you need to revise it and you need to practice it. Make sure that you're now including your unique circumstances and your work from home situation.
Absolutely. So incident response, as we know, is the plan that you enact and you get, trigger ready so that if something happens, you know who to call, what to do, and how to mitigate this incident as it's happening to prevent further damage to your network. So not only do you need to disseminate this plan to all of your employees and contractors, there are also some special concerns with cloud infrastructure and third-party services. So make sure you read through those SLAs with all of your third-party service providers and get familiar with things like Amazon AWS's IR response plans. Some of you might not know that there is a shared responsibility between the IT provider and the end user. So become more familiar with the ways that you need to educate and define roles and responsibilities for incident response. Blackpanda follows a very common 6-step methodology, which we find to be effective and efficient in responding to incidents, including preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. Make sure that you review your plan with all of your employees and ensure that they've received it and understand what they need to do in the event of an incident. There's also a great opportunity to discuss that, we are Blackpanda, we are Asia's first combined cyber-physical incident response group. So, we really do want to encourage everyone to have these incident response plans and know that we are local and we are capable of responding in the event something does happen to your network, especially as the attack surface migrates from the workplace to everyone's home network. So a few things about Blackpanda incident response. We are local, joint, and ruggedized. We combined our knowledge of the cyber physical with our tools and processes and methodologies. So while our background is in international military, national security, and intelligence, as well as law enforcement, we are willing and able to service clients wherever they need. Our offices are headquartered in Singapore, but we have offices in Hong Kong, Tokyo, Manila, and KL. So with that, we welcome your questions. Again, use the Q&A feature of Zoom, and we hope that we've provided you all with any topics and useful feedback that you can, share and disseminate to your organizations.
Actually, Mika, we've got a lot of questions here. I think we've got time for about 3, if that's all right with you. We might see if we can answer 3 quick ones. So first question, very good one. Can we get a recording or a copy of the content presented here? Yes, absolutely. This session is recorded. It'll be available through socials, and everybody that's subscribed will be getting a link to it as well. So I appreciate that. There might be some useful tips in here that you can include for your wider group in your organisation that may be of help. There's another good one here, Mika. Maybe you can help out. The question is, what tools should we put in place to help prevent any kind of attack? Is antivirus enough?
Great question. Well, attacks ultimately are going to happen whether you have tools in place or not, but a combination of some sort of antivirus and an endpoint monitoring solution that facilitates incident response and catches behavior while it's in process, like an EDR or something, are actually great ways to continue to monitor and actually respond remotely to incidents as they're happening. There are a number of wonderful tools, including different kinds of wireless security, configuration steps, VPNs, but again, securing the endpoint is very important for your corporate assets.
Right, yeah, good advice. I think we have time for one more question, if that's all right, Mika. So it's a good one. From a security perspective, what are your thoughts about the Brave web browser?
My hands are tied, I don't know it.
Well, I might be able to help. Brave is a little known browser that actually is designed to limit the amount of personal information that's been sent back to websites and other organisations such as Google. So personally, I do use Brave. I employ Brave. It is limited sometimes in a little bit of functionality, but if you're willing to sacrifice the functionality, then it's a very secure browser to make sure your information is not being shared around. I hope that answers the question.
And for those of you who use a mainstream browser and are looking for increasing levels of privacy, I've at one point been a religious no-script user, which blocks all JavaScript, and you have to allow it as you see requests for JavaScript coming through. There are ad blockers you can use, different kinds of privacy badger type extensions. So really get familiar with the privacy and security features of your browser. But again, the 2 most important steps are to research any solutions you install on your endpoint and keep your browsers up to date and patched.
Yeah, right. Well, unfortunately, we have to leave it there, but thank you everybody for your time. You will get a link to this session again. You can review again. If there's anything else, please contact Blackpanda, and hopefully we can help you. But sincerely, good luck to everybody, and hopefully we'll all get through this soon. Thank you.